going on, y'all? It's your girl DJ Heat representing the core DJs, and you're now checking out Rap About TV. Not rap around, not rap over, not rap under, Rap About TV. Yeah, man, DJ Heat, I'm out.
Welcome, people to Rap About TV, man. It's your host, Ab Judah, right here. I got the famous DJ Heat with me to my left. How you feeling today?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, man. Of course. I always wanted this. We should have done this a long time ago, to be honest with you. You know, the schedule happened. Explain a little bit of what you do. You know what I'm saying? Your titles, you know.
Oh, wow. One title that I use to sum up what I do is I am a Renaissance woman.
I like that.
Because I pretty much do it all. The main thing, I'm a DJ, WPGC 95.5. Main slot I have, I do the mix show every Monday through Thursday at 10 p.m. What else I do? Run a blog called DumbRappersNeedTeaching.com. A space that I created, you know, to educate artists on a number of different things. Sometimes you can find me behind the camera as well, doing some videos, photography, and whatnot. Like I said, I do it like a lot of evolves around, you know, the industry and entertainment. Pretty much.
DJ, he's moving out here, man. He's moving around. Explain when the beginning of your journey was, when you fell in love with music. What was the artist that you fell in love with first?
I still remember when I first fell in love with hip hop. Hip hop music is my foundation. I was probably like in 6th grade, and I remember that, you know, all my classmates were talking about different rappers like NWA and DOC, and I was like, who are these people? And I was getting clowned, like, you don't know who NWA is? Yeah. You don't know who the DOC is? So this is what I did. So I was like, all right. Like you said, peer pressure. I'm tired of getting clowned. So after school, once I finished my homework, I would watch, you know, videos on TV, especially The Box. You know, that was a big video station. They was playing all the more, I guess you said, raw videos that MTV and BET wasn't playing. It, you know, yeah, it was real, you know, strictly like gangster, like underground artists. So I was like, okay, let me watch, you know, The Box so I can know these hip hop artists. Because before, all I knew was like MC Hammer and, you know, DJ Jackson, whatever was played on the radio. You know, right? NWA wasn't getting played on the radio, and 2 Live Crew wasn't getting played on the radio. So watching The Box, what I really gravitated towards was Ice Cube. It was just something about his videos and what he was talking about in the content. So that's when I really, you know, fell in love with rap music, was, you know, from not wanting to get clowned in 6th grade and, you know, seeing Ice Cube. And that actually became the first rap album that I ever bought. Was it was Ice Cube's album. I believe it was the Death Certificate album. It was the first rap album that I ever bought. And so, like, West Coast, something about West Coast music. It was that heavy West Coast, you know, vibe that was going on in rap at the time. So I was really heavy into West Coast rap music coming up.
Okay, I always found, as a music enthusiast myself, I always found that when you find your first artist, then you start tracing people back, you start going backwards, then you start, you know, was it like that for you? Yeah,
it was like from that, like I just got so, you know, engulfed in it, wanting to learn more. So what I would do, because, you know, it wasn't no internet yet back then. I know I'm dating myself and showing my age. There was no internet yet, but there was the Source magazine. So, you know, I would learn from, you know, reading through the Source magazine. Or one thing that I had to do, since there was no internet, one thing that people had to do is we go to the library and you was able to look up newspaper archives. So I would go to the school library and I would do a search on gangster rap or just rap music and just anything related to you know, what I was liking and hearing at the time. And I would print out old newspaper archives and I would read about it, because that's what you had to do before internet. You had to go to this database in the library with all archives of all the newspapers and magazines across the country. So I would print them out and read them. I was reading about like Bloods and Crips, like, because I was heavy into West Coast music, like everything, and how, you know, it was this whole war on gangster rap music, and so just, you know, learned from that and learned more about the artists and the history of rap music and whatnot through that.
And how did you take your love for the music and becoming a profession, you know, and becoming, you know, active in the music?
With DJing, that's another interesting story as well, because like I mentioned how, you know, I was only hearing stuff that was on the radio before, you know, I made myself, you know, sit down and watch videos on the box. So on the radio, it was during when the hot song at the time was Rump Shaker by Rex and Effect.
Rex and Effect.
Yeah, Rump Shaker, it was a huge song. It was always on the radio, but there was a Rump Shaker remix. And on that remix, there was like a DJ scratching on at the end, like, come on, come on, come on. Come on. And I was like, man, this is cool. Like, I really, like, every time that song came on the radio, I used to wait for that DJ part. And I used to do the little mimicking what I think a DJ would do. But, you know, inside I was like, you know what? I think I really want to do this. I'm getting so excited hearing this DJ on the Rump Shaker remix that I think I want to be a DJ. Like, yeah, I determined at that point I want to be a DJ. So when I was 13 years old, I was able to get my first summer job through Mayor Marion Barry's summer youth program. You know, rest in peace to him. It was my first summer job, and I saved up every paycheck that I had from that summer job. I only spent 50 cents. That's when I bought a bag of potato chips. Wow. But can you imagine a 13-year-old saving every single paycheck?
Yeah, you was focused.
I was focused because I knew how much the DJ equipment cost that I wanted. Again, because I would read the Source magazine, and in the Source there was this company called Upstairs Records, and they used to advertise DJ packages. Like, you had the DJ starter package, you had the DJ platinum package, etc., etc. So, you know, before I started that summer job, I called that record store and I was like, hey, how much is it with tax for the DJ starter package? They told me the total. I was like, cool. So I knew how much I had to save, and that basically, you know, back, you know, it was probably like, what was that, like 94? So back then, you know, it wasn't that much money. So literally every paycheck that I had kind of equated to getting that DJ starter package. And, you know, and that's what happened. At the end of the summer, I had the money, you know, I got the money order, because again, it was no internet. Ain't like you could go online and order something. I had to send it. I had to send in that money order and send it up to New York. And, you know, a few weeks later, my DJ starter package arrived, and, you know, been in love ever since.
So what was you in? You was just in the basement just practicing?
Yeah, in the apartment. No, not even a house. You know, I'm from DC. It's about, you know, Southeast DC is that apartment life. So, I had it set up at first on the dining room table. Took away. Luckily, we had a kitchen table and a dining room table. So the dining room table was kind of supposed to be like, you know, there's special guests over. I'm like, no, put my DJ equipment on the dining room table.
Me now. That's mine now.
Right, because I didn't have anything to set it on at first. So yeah, I would just, you know, be in the dining room. Practicing, and my mom, you know, luckily I had a supportive family that saw that I really wanted to be
important, man.
Right. They would take me to the record store to buy records, and I was like, no, I want this record right here, and stuff like that.
So how did you know you were good enough, or you were at the point that you could take it outside of the house?
Oh man, I don't think I ever really knew, but the first chance that I got, I believe it was around like in 2001. I was working at the movie theater at Union Station. I worked in the concession stand, and we was about to have our holiday party, and people knew that, you know, the managers knew, like, you're a DJ, right? How about you DJ our holiday party? I was like, cool. Like, I'll give it a try. So like, I guess, you know, that was considered my first, you know, gig DJing the holiday party. I took that risk, and I think it was, you know, you had your little shaky moments and stuff, because, you know, it's one thing to DJ in, of course, in your house, but when you got to go out and start learning the crowd, it's totally different.
You got to vibe off the energy.
You're right, and of course I didn't understand that at the time until, you know, still some years down the line. But, you know, it all comes with experience. If any DJ says that they killed their first party,
they're probably lying.
They're probably lying.
Explain what your what your path was like from graduating from Morgan to getting on the radio. What was that stage in your life like?
Well, that stage. Well, I knew around the same time where I knew I wanted to be a DJ when I was 13. That's when I also knew that I wanted to work for WPGC. Oh. So it's always been a dream of mine since I was a kid to work at WPGC. Went to college, Morgan State University. My junior or senior. I was in college for 5 years, so it's hard to determine which one was really a junior year, what was that senior year, or that second senior year. Some people had 3 senior years. But so like my junior year is when I applied for an internship at WPGC, and I was lucky to get called, and I got interviewed, and the person that interviewed me, she works for Clear. She's like one of the big women at Clear Channel. Her name is Thea Mitchum. She helped orchestrate the Angie Martinez moving the power deal. She works with the Breakfast Club. She's in that off. She's major. So she used to work at WPGC, and she interviewed me for my internship, and she said that I think you'd be a great fit with Big Tigger, because they ask you your likes, and I told her big hip hop head, blah blah blah. These the rappers I like. I'm a Cannabis fan, and she's like, oh, like you'd be a great fit with Tigger, because Tigger at the time he was on from 6 to 10 p.m. on WPGC, and he was also doing Rap City, because that's when BET was still in DC. Yep. So I got matched up with Tigger with my summer internship. It was great. And the moment that really set me off at the internship is when Tigger was out for a while and DJ Flex filled in for him. Now, at the time, DJ Flex was just a part-time guy. He wasn't, as major as he is on the radio now. So I learned a lot from Tigger. Tigger had a certain way that, he wanted things before he came in. Like, have this, organized and ready for me, blah, this and that. So when Tigger was out and Flex was filling in, I still did the same things as if Tigger was there. And Flex was impressed. He was like, wow, like, I don't have to do this, or like, nah, I do all this because that's what I learned from Tigger. Like, I'm the one that has to do all this. And Flex was just, man, we gotta hire you. He's like, I'm going to talk to them. Like, we need to hire you. That's dope. So I thank Flex for being the man that got me hired, because he was a man of his word. He went and talked to the bosses and like, yo, we gotta hire her after her internship is over, and that's what happened. I got hired, started off in a position called a board operator, just running things, doing broadcasts. But I got fired a year later from WPGC, and the reason why I got fired is I was still in college at Morgan, and I went away to New Orleans for a newspaper conference, because like I said, I worked for the Spokesman newspaper at Morgan State, so there was this big college newspaper conference in New Orleans. That same week of the conference, that was also the same day of our big event called For Sisters Only. And For Sisters Only, I learned, is a mandatory event for all employees. I did not know that. So while I'm in New Orleans, I get a phone call from the boss, the head man in charge, Reggie Rouse. Shout out to Reggie. He's a very, he's a genius in radio. He works at V103 in Atlanta now. And Reggie called me up and he's like, Nikki, where are you? I'm like, I'm in New Orleans, for, a trip with my college. He's like, did you know For Sisters Only was today? It's mandatory for all employees. He was like, nah, I didn't know. He was like, okay, see me when you get back. Oh, nobody want to hear that. Nobody want to hear that. So when I got back, I walked into his office and I was fired. He took my keys and badges. And I cried my eyes out, because like I said, it was my dream since I was 13 to work at WPGC. So I was like, dang, like my dream has ended right here. So, finished senior year at Morgan. I got an internship at XM Radio, like when they first launched. Like I was like the first batch of interns for XM Radio. There was no Sirius, because we gotta remember, Sirius was a different satellite radio, and XM was a different satellite radio. They were competitors. So I started there at XM, and had a cool internship there. Graduated from Morgan. Started the job hunt. I ended up at a shoe store called Finish Line, being a manager, selling shoes for a long period of time. But like 3 years into being that sneaker manager, selling shoes, I was like, I didn't go to college to sell shoes. I went to college to do radio. And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take a chance and see if I could get back into WPGC. So the same person that fired me, Reggie Rouse, I sent him an email. I was like, hey, you know, Reggie, you know, like, I know it's been a while. You know, want, you know, get a chance to talk to you. You know, I've matured a lot since, you know, the 3 years before, you know, when you let me go, blah, blah, blah. And he actually hit me back. And he's like, yeah, come up, let's talk. And he rehired me back because, you know, despite me missing that event, I did great work in the position that I did. And he was like, you know, just make sure you don't do what you did before and miss an event. So that was like in 2004. And I say, like, ever since then, I haven't done anything to try to get to get fired again. And you know, I worked my way up, starting, you know, the board operator position, and eventually doing an air check and getting an opportunity to finally talk on the radio. I thank Michelle Wright for that, because I had turned into another boss at the time. I gave him my demo and he kept putting it off. So at one point, Michelle Wright, she was like, let me listen to it, Nikki. And she's like, you know, this is great. She's like, I'm gonna go tell them, like, why haven't you listened to her air check? She's good. Give her a chance on the radio. And that's what happened. Just like how, you know, Flex put in a good word to give me a chance, Michelle Wright put in a great word, and that led to my opportunity and working myself up from doing like overnights and moving on different times, and eventually, you know, doing the morning show and stuff like that. So that's that journey.
That's a lot, man.
I know, man.
What was the most valuable thing you learned from that process of being let go from WPGC to being, you know, brought back on board?
Like, don't give up. Like, if you have a dream and you know something that you want to achieve, like, you're gonna have roadblocks in life. Like, every great person, before they achieve what it is that they wanted, before they reach their goals, you're gonna, you know, I tell people, like, when Michael Jordan got cut,
twice. You
know, when he was trying to reach his dreams. So it's going to happen, and it makes you better. And don't be afraid to be humble, because most people, you know, who would take a chance to reaching out to the person that fired them? Right. Some people are like, oh, nah, screw them. I'm like, nah, man. I'm like, this is what I want to do. Like, I wanted to be at WPGC since I was 13. Why shouldn't I be? I'm going to talk to that same man that fired me, and look what happened. He rehired me.
You gotta put that prayer to the side.
Yeah, man.
Got you. Now, with you're doing all the work at PGC and other venues, and you building your name up. You built a reputation, you know, saying, for having an ear for music. People respect your input and you know, your outlook on. Explain what that is like for you when artists bring you their music. Just to hear your opinion, like it's a big deal.
Oh man, it's a great thing that they trust my ear, and I think I've kind of, you know, built myself or put out there that how, you know, I'm heavy into the local music scene. Like, that's only because, you know, I'm a fan. I love my city and I love hip hop music. And coming up, when I saw that hip hop artists were making music in my city, I was like, oh, like, this is cool. Because again, you know, with dating myself, I could go back to, you know, coming up in the 90s, you know, 80s and 90s. You know, it was never cool to be a rapper from DC. Like, you got looked at crazy if you were from DC and say that you wanted to rap, because it was all about go-go. But me being, you know, the hip hop person I am, I know go-go is the sound of my city, but I was never a heavy go-go listener. Like, I think some people become go-go listeners because, you know, they might have brothers and sisters that play it, they might have even, you know, relatives that play it. But, you know, I'm an only child, so I had no brothers and sisters playing go-go, and my family is from the South, so it wasn't their sound of their city either. So I was always into, you know, rap music, what I was seeing on TV that and, you know, was talked about, you know, some of my classmates when I was young. It was about rap music. And when I was Googling, you know, like I said, I'm not even Googling. It's funny I used the word Google, because Google wasn't around yet. When I was on the search engines typing in, you know, hip hop and DC, I started seeing artists coming up. And even while watching the box, you know, it was exciting to see, you know, when Section 8 Mob would be on there, to see Nonchalant, Question Mark Asylum, Earthquake, you know, Nitty and Gotti. I could go back to like a lot of artists from back then that had videos, you know, Black Indian, and that got their videos on the box. And to see like My Neighborhood, like when Nonchalant had 5 o'clock, and to see her in front of the convenience store at the corner of Bennett Road and Minnesota Avenue. And like, I grew up on Bennett Road. I was like, oh my gosh, this video was shot. Like, I know where she is. It was exciting for me. So I was, I was getting into it made me want to discover, more music in the area, because, nobody else was giving it a chance. Like, it was, like I said, it was a go-go heavy city until, it started getting older and it started to transition more. Like, I tell people, as much as people want to discredit the man and put him down, there was a Wale effect that changed the music scene in this area. Because, again, nobody was really messing with rappers. Like, you looked at crazy if you were from this area and wanted to rap. You like, oh, you want to be like the New York cats, you want to rap. Nah, you better come out here and bang on these buckets with me, or bang on this lunch table, and be hit some go-go beats. But when people saw what happened with Wale, the tide started to shift, and more people want to get involved with rap, and they saw that, oh, you're not a Bama because you want to be a rapper. And he did a great thing, because he took the sound of the city and rapped over that. So you had to look, because you hear familiar, sample from a go-go song, and you hear somebody rapping, like, oh, somebody's rapping on a go. I'm like, okay, so it shifted. So with me now, and seeing like just how many people come at me since, if I could compare to, of course, back then, to just like a handful of rappers that I know, and I used to go out to like the open mics and stuff like that. It was just a handful, till now it's like everybody I bump into is a rapper, and I appreciate that they want to get vibes from me and opinions from me to help them out, because I see where where it stems from and whatnot, the history of what I've done in the local music scene.
Yeah, I rap too. This ain't an interview.
You got the mixtape.
That's why we had the studio. I just lured you in.